Hello everybody, happy Tuesday, hope you're doing very well. Filming this from a very warm and hot UK. I don't know if you can generally tell, but I've caught the sun a little bit from spending some time outside. As I suggested in a video last week, why not have a look at some of the shirts that are getting released thick and fast for the 25-26 season. I've only pulled out a handful of them that stood out to me. But I'm sure we'll probably cover most of them as we progress. Let's start with my team, Chelsea, because I have a little bit more insight on those, and we'll go for the home shirt, which is certainly more understated than the previous home shirt, which, whilst obviously as a Chelsea shirt I still like, wasn't my favourite design, whereas this one is a much more clean approach. It's meant to be inspired by London architecture, and it's got a little bit of red on it, which I quite like that because there is a little bit of red on the crest, and it's nice. This is actually one of the shirts I've seen in person, and yeah, I like it. I like it much more than the previous seasons. It's going to be a really cool shirt. I've not seen the player spec version yet, but I'm sure that's fine. The crest is back to being a normal crest, not weird wonderful colours. I think the home shirt, that should be the case, and obviously at the moment I'm just waiting for a sponsor to appear. Hopefully that does happen before like 3 games at the end of the season, so we'll see. They've also released their away shirt. Usually Chelsea are a little bit sluggish when it comes to shirts. You're kind of waiting towards the first week of the season and you're like, oh, there it is. But because they're probably participating in the Club World Cup, it's incentivizing to get the shirts released. The away shirt, when it was first sort of leaked, I wasn't necessarily kind of overstruck by it. But having seen it not in person, but on images, and then watching it in the matches, it looks good. So that's a throwback to a shirt from the 70s. I think it's the 74-75 away shirt, which itself was inspired by the famous Hungarian team of the 50s. Of course, Hungary flag is just those particular colours anyway, in a different orientation. It's nice. I think it's quite good. Obviously, when we do get a sponsor, you've got those stripes running down the front. How it's applied, it might look a little bit weird. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think it is actually a white shirt, whereas last season's white shirt wasn't really white. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm not upset as a Chelsea fan. I think they're two pretty solid offerings. So let's just jump into the other teams then. We have Arsenal, and it's their home shirt. So obviously it's going to be a pretty red standard offering. But what it does have, though, is the Gothic A. Sort of the crest that they use is like kind of all the way across the front of the shirt. I don't know if it's on the back. I think that's a very popular icon with the fans. So I would expect this one to be quite popular with the Arsenal fans. I've not seen it in person to see how it's applied. But it's a nice little clean effort from the club there. Then we have Aston Villa, who have released their away shirt. Now, looking at it, maybe without knowing much about it, you'd think the design's pretty simple. It's pretty plain. The colours are okay, but not extravagant. You have this sort of design along the sleeves, but that is inspired by the Bullring Shopping Centre, which is quite a popular and famous place in England when it comes to certainly Birmingham. And the design of the building's rather unique, and that's kind of the design on the shoulders there. So that's the reason why there is a little bit of connection between the club and the city. Talking of City, we have Manchester City, and they've gone for a first on their home shirt. It's the first time they've had a sash running across the front. They've done that on away and third shirts on occasion, but it's the first time they've ever done it on the home. And I like it, to be honest. It's not just a solid block. The way they've broken it up, it's quite a sort of a contemporary approach to that design. Puma, to be honest, I'm not always a huge fan of Puma, but there's quite a few on this list which have done good stuff. So, fair play to them. The sort of player spec material is probably not going to be to my liking, but other than that, the design's pretty smart. So, fair play to Manchester City. Manchester United also have released their home shirt, and this one is a tribute to Old Trafford, inspired by Old Trafford. I think it's partly because of the design, again, running down the sleeves, which they've not had on a shirt for a while. It's meant to be sort of the building work around the stadium. On the back of the neck, it does say the Theatre of Dreams. I like this shirt. I prefer a Manchester United home shirt to have more black detailing than none. I think last season's didn't really have any at all. It was just white and red. Whereas this one, I think this one is quite nice. Newcastle home shirt, that's also been released, of course, in their traditional colours. And they've gone for a shepherd's check style approach to their sort of vertical stripes. So instead of being solid, it has these sort of interesting detailings as the two colours meet. I've never been massively sold on Newcastle home shirts, partly because I've just never been a huge fan of black and white striped shirts in general, whether it be Juventus, Notts County. It's not just because it's Newcastle United. On the back of the neck it says "Away the lads," which obviously is very, very common saying for the fans in Newcastle. Ironically, I'm actually going to be in Newcastle the following weekend of this video. It's fine. I'm still not a massive fan of the sponsor, but I'm sure the Newcastle faithful will like this shirt. Then we have Spurs. The Spurs have released their home shirt, so it's kind of a common theme, a common joke among other football fans, maybe even Spurs fans, that their home shirts are pretty much the same shirt every season. And I'm the first person to jump on the bandwagon of taking the mick out of Spurs. But to be honest, this year they actually have done something a little bit different. And you might look at it and think, what is it? It's actually the fact that they've got centralised logos. They've not done that since 84, 85. So that's over 40 years since they've done that, so fair play to them. Whilst the colour and the navy is obviously going to be what it is, the approach is different. So for this season, we can't really say anything. Let's see what happens next season. But their away shirts and third shirts are usually quite interesting designs, so could be a good year for them, at least when it comes to the shirts. Dropping down into the Championship, we have the return of Charlton Athletic, and not only that, we have the return of Reebok. Reebok are back into English football. In fact, they haven't really been into football all that much. I think they've been doing stuff with Botafogo and Panama, was it? It was a national team, but they're back, and it's obviously going to be their red home shirts. It's got this bespoke pattern, lovely design, kind of reminds you a little bit of Liverpool, obviously, with those Reebok shirts, and of course the red. I think that's really good. Believe they've also partnered with MK Dons. I think that also recently got released. So, who knows how long it'll last. Maybe it's a resurgence of Reebok that we all have been wanting to see. After that, we have Stoke City. So it's Macron, still with Macron, and it's very interesting contemporary design. So usually, of course, they have their red and white solid vertical stripes, and what they've done now is gone for a sort of a wavy brush approach. Very, very interesting. It's kind of a throwback to like the USA 94 World Cup shirts, or maybe just the Atletico Madrid shirts if you're a little bit younger. I think it's a cool approach. Macron always does some good stuff, and generally with Stoke they are the same, so I'm sure the away and the third shirts will follow suit. Speaking of Macron, let's look at Bradford City. They've only recently just released their away shirt, and it's celebrating the fact that they are the UK City of Culture for 2025, which it says under the crest. It has this kind of houndstooth pattern which runs across the front, which is a nice little way of doing it. I'm sure it's probably embossed into the material, and of course you have their traditional sort of claret and amber or yellow, whatever it is, that runs across the collars and on the cuffs. You have the centralised logos, which I think Bradford maybe did also last season on one of their shirts. It looks good. They're back in League One, and I think that's a good shirt. They've also released their third shirt, and it's a pink shirt. Of course, I'm going to have to feature a pink shirt on this list. It wouldn't be one of my lists if that wasn't the case. And I think it's good. It's got this cool design. You've got various shades of pink. You've got this interesting colour detailing on the cuffs, a colour combination that you just don't see anywhere. And of course, still has that sort of City of Culture inspiration. I'm sure the home shirt's probably going to be pretty more traditional. But I work with Bradford City fan. I don't think he's sold necessarily on both those shirts, but if I was a fan, I wouldn't be too upset. Then we're going to go to Plymouth Argyle, who seemingly do really, really good stuff with Puma. All of their home shirts are really cool, and this one is just another example of that. You know how much I like throwback crests, historic crests, and whilst the main crest is still the same, you've got the older crests, I presume, screen printed into the material of the shirt. So if you were a Plymouth fan, that's a nice little tribute to times gone by. I think that's just a nice way of doing it. Then we have this one. Talking about throwback, we have the Port Vale Home 150th year anniversary shirt, which has done very, very well online. It's gone well with the sort of the fans and the enthusiasts of the clean shirt, the simple shirt and the vintage shirt, which I suppose if you're celebrating 150 years, of course, that's the one way to do it. You have an alternative crest on this one, which is like a throwback. It's just got the initials, which I think was used in 1974. So yeah, it's just really, really nice. It won't have a front of shirt sponsor. I think there's something on the back of the neck, but you know what? It's a lovely shirt, and I think that'll do well with fans and probably collectors around the world. Talking of going from being simple and sort of clean, you've gone this Macron Reading shirt, which is very, very loud. I'd be surprised if there's people that like both of those. I'm one of those few people, but if you're not interested in the simple ones and you like the eye-catching contemporary shirts, this will be the one for you. The inspiration behind this one is a biscuit company. So they're called Huntley and Palmer's, which is a biscuit manufacturing confectionery people from Reading. In fact, the club were then affectionately known as the Biscuit Men. Though, of course, they've since become more known as the Royals. And the tins that the biscuits would be sort of, passed on and sort of packaged into had this sort of a vintage, Victorian, Gothic, ornate design. And that's kind of obviously the reason why they've got it across the stripes there. Typically they would have white and blue horizontal stripes. They've kind of swapped those out. Some fans, I suspect, are probably just thinking, this is just too much. It's just so far away from where we usually would sit. But, for one season, I think this is pretty cool. It's interesting, but like I said, not many people would be a fan of both of the two shirts just gone by. And then finally, we'll keep it quite short and simple. We've got Chesterfield's Away shirt. I've introduced this one to the list, not necessarily because I think it's beautiful. I don't really know how I feel about this one. This one's been critically received online, should we say. For me, when I look at it, I see like hemoglobin, like red blood cells, or some people have said it's just like someone's put a red sock in there and it's dyed the shirt. It does have a throwback crest though, which is pretty cool. So that one's got a little bit of something going towards with the history. I think it's from the 1940s that they were using that one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll just stick to the home shirt for some of the fans. So that's it, really. Those are the shirts. Obviously, they're all English teams. Plenty of foreign teams have released their shirts. We'll do a video looking at some of those, and then every now and then we'll just pick out shirts that really stand out, because I like to do this partly because it gives me an idea of what shirts I might want to be adding to my collection for the next upcoming season. If you have any suggestions, maybe it's your team or you've seen something floating around, please do mention it in the comments and I'll try to include it in the next one. Thoughts on the shirts? Any of them that you might be interested in getting yourselves? Maybe a Chelsea shirt. I have some few shirts to go. I have a pretty cool one to show you. It's a club that I've been wanting to add to my collection for a while now, and whilst it's not the version of the shirt that I would have preferred, it's still really cool. So I'll see you on Friday for that one. Thank you as always for watching, and goodbye.